This is the BIA Kelsey Live, beginning of a new podcast series from our market research and investment banking firm, BIA Kelsey. I'm joined today. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, by the way. I'm your host. And I'm joined by Michael Boland, who is our VP of Content, and Abid Chaudhry, who is the Senior Analyst and Digital Strategist for BIA Kelsey. We're going to be getting together with you every day here. Well, actually, not every day, every week. Let's not get carried away. Every week on Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And let me just give you a quick précis of what the show is about. We cover local media, local marketing, and the technology that is connecting media and marketing to advertising in order to complete the marketing workflow for small and medium-sized business, as well as brands seeking to reach local markets. And we conduct a lot of research and do conferences, as well as provide advisory services across the industry. But we wanted to create an opportunity for people to call and ask questions, join us in discussion, and also just let the team bounce around some ideas that we've been thinking about. So every week you can expect us to talk about several recent news stories and to have guests. Today we don't have guests. We're trying this as a group for the first time, so we'll just make do with us as our guests. And let me start off with asking the guys to introduce themselves. So let me start with Mike. Tell us a little about your practice and what you do.
Sure. So thanks, Mitch. I'm Mike Boland. I'm Chief Analyst at BI Kelsey, and I kind of oversee our thought leadership in terms of making sure we're covering all the right stuff, but then also the output of that, the content, the white papers, the blogging, the video, the multimedia efforts like this, just make sure we're addressing the community, the audience, with all the right topics and maintaining that thought leadership position. So that's me. Thanks.
Great. And Abid?
Hey folks, I am Abid Chaudhry, and I'm one of the senior analysts on the BI Kelsey team. And my major focus areas, I guess functional areas, are a split between search marketing, search advertising, anything related to the world of search, whether it's on desktop or mobile, as well as a mix of looking at different types of business models within the local commerce space, as well as emerging technologies. And so it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife, but more often than not, I'm pretty much looking at social media, search marketing, and what's happening with local commerce around that.
Great. And just to give you all a little background on me, I am the Chief Product Officer at BIA Kelsey, as well as the Senior Analyst for the local on-demand economy practice, which we've been building over the past couple of years. And my background involves starting a number of companies, including BuzzLogic, On24, and contributing to the launch of companies like Audible and Match.com back in the 90s. So I think this is going to be a great opportunity for us to be responsive to the rest of the market. So folks, if you have questions you'd like us to discuss in a future episode, also feel free to send me email at mratcliffe, that's MRATCLIFFE, at BIAKelsey.com, and we'll certainly entertain your ideas and get you on air potentially. So let's start with the news wrap for the week. This is the first time, so I'm going to kind of free-form it here. Mike, you wrote an article on September 9th last week about the AirPod, the new in-ear Bluetooth device that Apple launched and foiled all of the wired headset makers in the world in the process. What does it mean, and what did you identify in this that was so important to understanding the future of local and personal marketing? Because that's really what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, so the AirPods, I'm sure everyone's familiar. They're the kind of wireless version of the earbuds. And among all of Apple's announcements, not a lot of them were surprises, because in the age of kind of rumors and connected everything, we knew pretty much all the announcements before they happened. But the AirPods were a bit of a surprise. But really, they've been kind of talked to death. But one angle I want to talk about is how they could, be kind of a channel, a pervasive channel for content delivery, especially localized. And really, the speculation starts with the form factor. So because they're so kind of sleek and easy, a use case could develop to leave them in at all times. earbuds. And from there, that creates an interesting channel to deliver content by audio. So in the kind of, as Google puts it, micro moments of like waiting in the grocery line or commuting on the subway, instead of pulling out your phone to get your fix of, Snapchat or Pokemon Go or just email, the thought is you simply get a whisper in your ear about things like news alerts or nearby deals or any information about your surroundings. And I think that's interesting because it makes this ambient audio channel now a new delivery platform for all kinds of information, including local. And I think the interesting angle is that everyone's talking about augmented reality in terms of the informational overlays as you walk around the physical world. And we're very bullish on that. But it's interesting, this kind of raised the thought that it might not just be graphical, but also audible in terms of just kind of this overlay information. And one thing I'll close on is that the other thing that makes this interesting is that it aligns with a parallel trend, which is personal assistant apps. There's an arms race between Siri and Alexa and Cortana and Google Now, and all that competition has bred an acceleration in voice processing and personalized experiences on these platforms. So when and if AirPods become this kind of ubiquitous channel in your ear at all times, as I'm predicting, by the time that happens, and it will take some hardware cycles, the voice processing chops could also be at the place to have this kind of audible channel be very sustainable. So triangulating a few of these trends, it could be interesting. So I'll stop there and let you guys jump in.
So what do you think? Audio coupons whispered in your ear, Abid, does that work well?
I hope not.
Yeah, that's not creepy at all, right? I mean, Big Brother is literally in your ear whispering to you. But, there's a couple of things that I think are going to be pulled out of this in the next 10 years. One of them is that we're moving, like Mike mentioned, we're moving into this new paradigm where screens aren't as important as they used to be anymore, right? I mean, now your voice, as well as touch, as well as physical things that you have in your presence are enabling you to connect into the world of the internet. And I think this is the beginning of a shift away from the smartphone era in wholesale, right? Everyone's already kind of made a decision that carrying these little black rectangles in our pockets is kind of becoming part of the last generation of technology, and that we're moving towards a new world. And the personal assistant story, I think, like Mike mentioned, is also really interesting because I think more and more often, and Siri has been around for a while, but it's gotten a lot better in the last year or so. And interestingly enough, it wasn't a huge story, but in the last year, Apple actually switched their voice processing provider from a company called Nuance to their own proprietary team, and they hired a team to do so. And in doing that, they've been able to really accelerate their ability to have voice artificial intelligence, and Siri's become a lot smarter. And I think that this is all going to lead towards Apple taking a position in your living room the way that Alexa and Google will soon be doing. And, but outside of that, though, just going back to those wireless AirPods for a second, Conan O'Brien last night, or maybe 2 nights ago, had a skit on his show that replicated the original iPod ads with the bright colors and the silhouettes of the people dancing with their, the original ad had the earbuds, the white earbuds on the black silhouettes. This ad is a lot more realistic to what I think is going to be happening, which is a bunch of people dancing with their AirPods until the AirPods fall out, getting frustrated, going to the Apple store because they lost their AirPods, having to spend more money. And I think it's going to be a weird growing pain because I don't know if these AirPods or any other sort of wireless earbud type thing is a permanent solution. I'm still very much attached to the point where I've got multiple wired headphones all throughout my house, if only for the fact that I don't want to have to charge things, So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Then again, I'm an Android person, so I don't like any of it.
So I should mention just
let me add.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I will not put them in my ear because I don't want a radio inside a part of my body. And years ago, I was covering the first introduction of an in-ear headset. And I stood up as a reporter and said, have you done any testing on the consequences of tissue warming from the radio pressed against your head? And they said, gee, we'd never even thought of that. And they never launched the product after that.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if 50 years from now we all have AirPoditis.
Well, yeah, or giant swollen jaws.
And you know what? Maybe it's part of the singularity. Maybe this is just part of the evolution of humans, right? Like we're supposed to have swollen jaws.
Yeah.
We give ourselves cancer with headsets, and then that cancer takes over our body. But
X-Men are real.
we become Apple people.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. At that point, it won't be AirPods. It will be embedded. But I should also qualify everything I said at the intro by saying that, I don't think it's going to replace the staring down at your phone factor for all things. I think just some things. I think it'll be great for like trivia night or, stuff like that. And, they'll probably be outlawed from trivia nights. I say that partly facetiously, but, visual is still a key kind of olfactory sense, and that will be pervasive for lots of things. The audio channel could displace it for some things, but not all.
Okay, so we have another story.
There's a couple of queries that already sort of exist right now that I know people are using their voice for. When is the next train coming?
Right.
Where's the closest gas station? At what time does J. Crew close? Or what are the metric conversions while I'm cooking my dinner?
Exactly.
Right? And so there's a lot of things that people are already using voice for that I think having to just touch your ear once and then speak your query, I think will be a very natural sort of progression. So now it's just more of a curiosity to see if people would want to put these goofy looking white earpod things in their ears. Which they probably will, because consumers, interestingly enough, they complain and then they get in line.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have another story about Microsoft's ActionGram, which is a mixed reality AR/VR application they launched for HoloLens, which is still a development product. And the use case they showed was being accompanied by a celebrity in your life, and for those of you who are not aware of the difference between HoloLens and the most of the other headsets, the headsets in the market block your vision and overlay the universe with a new reality. The HoloLens allows you to see through the projection display into the real world. So you are sitting in your living room, and it overlays different kinds of three-dimensional experiences. In this case, they hired George Takei, the actor who played Sulu on the original Star Trek, to sort of walk around with you and help you cook dinner and laugh and make your life an exciting and delightful experience. And it was charming to watch. But the more important thing was they were also showing how people would be able to start to build their shared virtual realities and use them in work and so forth. And these so that you might actually have animation around you as you interact with a brand. And these are some really interesting opportunities as well. One that I think if you mix the two that we're talking about, you get into the full dimension or full range of AI ambience that we're talking about. Now, this is all, I still think, 5 years off. But we're going to be organizing ourselves to address these kinds of devices through very, very familiar technology, which is mapping technology, listings technology. You don't know what time J. Crew closes if the listing that has that information that is considered authoritative isn't correct. And that may be J. Crew in New York, not J. Crew, the one you're looking at right across the street, if the mapping technology isn't working right. So in a lot of ways, we're sort of populating the virtual map, and then we're going to overlay it with this audio and the visual that starts to express creative opportunities for marketing in these channels. But I think people are resistant to some of these changes, and others are going to dive in because it is exciting to see something like a football player burst through the wall, or to have somebody whisper in your ear that there's a new song from your favorite band. Would you like to buy it right now? That sort of sense of concierge services that we've talked about at several of the conferences.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
One thing.
You can go first. Go ahead.
Well, I think one thing that's interesting is that we're moving towards the world from Minority Report, or even from Back to the Future 2, where advertisements are contextual to who you are, and they eventually will be specific messaging to who you are as well in terms of dynamic, what's being shown to you. But I think this augmented reality baby steps that are happening are really exciting. And more often, like even with Pokemon Go, with the augmented reality sort of situation with on-screen Pokemon in your local park, it's getting people familiar with the idea that this is something that can happen. And I think that as HoloLens and some of the other stuff that Google's investing in and Facebook as well on the augmented side, I think is going to be probably, mark my words, but I think that's going to be the bigger move in the world of artificial realities compared to virtual reality, because it'll be an overlay, and there's a lot more opportunity for multiple, and I hate to say it this way, but multiple monetization efforts on screen when you've got an augmented situation when you're walking down, a grocery aisle and little pop-ups show up as you're walking through with sales or other animations or some sort of not so intrusive marketing messaging. And I think that delight the user paradigm that sort of existed in the desktop world will become a lot more sort of doable from the augmented reality side versus the virtual reality side, which I feel is going to become much more of an entertainment sort of channel versus something more than that,
Yeah, the difference between AR and VR, besides the technical differences, AR will come later but be bigger. And the reason it's going to be bigger is that it is more practical to walk around all day with an overlay than it is to be fully immersed. There are only so many hours in the day you can be fully immersed, where theoretically you can have AR in all waking hours. And I think that the commercial applications, as you just pointed out, Abid, are a lot greater with AR. And it's interesting. You also mentioned Pokemon Go, and there are a lot of kind of AR purists out there that are having pretty heated debates and saying, stop calling Pokemon Go and things like Snapchat 3D stickers AR, because true AR isn't just an overlay. It has, computer vision and physics engines that allow those graphics to interact with the real world in dimensionally accurate ways. And my response to that is, yes, you're not wrong, but I think it doesn't matter. The fact that Pokemon Go has gotten the world acclimated to an AR-like interface, when it does arrive, it's going to accelerate a lot quickly because people have developed that kind of muscle memory, and they're used to it. Same with Snapchat 3D stickers. Now, with respect to the George Takei thing, that's very interesting. And I think at this point, of course, as you pointed out, Mitch, it's a point of or it's a proof of concept because it's in the developer version where HoloLens. That's the stage of HoloLens still. And there are a lot of use cases for augmented reality, and some of which will be location-based and commercial in nature, like you pointed out, Abid, and some of them will be, more kind of entertainment-based. And the Takei thing, I think, is the latter. But that being said, I think it does inspire lots of thought about, what's possible for more commercially oriented AR use cases for HoloLens and for others like Magic Leap and Meta. So, for example, the graphical overlays we're talking about can superimpose products in dimensionally accurate ways, as I pointed out, with like some local implications. So, how about think about like re-landscaping your yard, or trying new clothes on before you buy them, or redesigning your living room, through an app from IKEA. A lot of things like that. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think this is one of the ways we'll see the world is that you will, and I'll use an example down the street, Firestone. I'll look at the Firestone. I'll see the rating of the Firestone. I will see the manager. I'll see that I know him, from coffee, things like that. And what we're talking about is building a brand story that extends through all of these different interactions. So Takei, for instance, is an example of a potential avatar for a brand.
Yeah. And
that brand could be, let's say, General Assembly, the education company. And it could be an accompanying coach who, when you're working, is giving you cues around the coding problem that you're trying to deal with. So we're going to see these various expressions of brand as characters in the future that are going to start to try to be our friends, our advisors, and so forth. And I think that's an interesting area where we're going.
It's going to have to go in that direction because, as we pointed out earlier, you mentioned the coupons. It can't be just this very disruptive, and Abid, you mentioned Minority Report. It can't be just things flashing in front of your face. The branded experiences that are going to work are going to be more native, like Takei as your friend leading you through an online course, or like Coca-Cola showing you something. It's going to have to be a lot more native and integrated as opposed to just like blam, display ads. Yeah.
Wait, so hold on. I just want to make sure, Mitch, I hear you saying that Microsoft's Clippy is coming back to life and whispering in my ear.
My favorite, Clippy for all of his charming characteristics, my favorite avatar ever was in the Microsoft Bob release, and it was Scuzz the Rat. Scuzz the Rat would come out and, in terms of being interruptive, would start playing loud rock guitar while you were trying to work just to bother you.
Well, I actually do my best work with loud rock guitar in my ear, so I don't know.
Well, Scuzz did not play good loud rock guitar. So, but these ideas, exactly, in a lot of ways, the little avatars we saw in 2 dimensions 20 years ago are going to be resurrected like zombies from the dead. And so I hope to see Scuzz the Rat. So let's move on to the next story real quickly. We've had a great conversation about this. Google has introduced a new, essentially it's an overlay banner in their YouTube videos called TrueView for Action. And TrueView for Action is a CTA, a call to action that pops as a graphic overlay on a video. What do you think of that? Is that intrusive in the sense that we were talking about a few minutes ago, or if they are contextually appropriate, are those calls to action a good investment for marketers?
Wait, can you repeat what exactly it's doing? I'm not quite understanding.
So as you're watching the video, there may be a banner which would come up roughly the way that they show it in the imagery, and now I have identified a feature requirement for this. We need to be able to share these images in the future. We would be looking at the video, and roughly in the top of the bottom third, there'd be a bar that said, "You can find out more. Are you interested in this car? Do you want that taco? Would you like a coupon?"
I would love that taco.
Yeah, and so I find that as an ad, and as a person who just finds most advertising annoying, not particularly additive to the experience. What do you guys think? I mean, I know I'm a Luddite. I ad block.
Quick thought. So we're already seeing a lot of banners and pre-rolls in YouTube. So I think that this is a march towards, or a march that aligns with the existing march towards things being more actionable and lower funnel. It brings kind of YouTube ad from a kind of branding and awareness play to more of a lower funnel direct response play. And I'll see how many more cliches I can fit into the next sentence. But no, the point is that I think that
game? You had
Google,
a good game. You gave it everything, left it on the field.
Yeah, right. We're gonna move the chains.
There you go.
So Google, I think, is facing a challenge where more activity moving over to mobile. We wrote a paper about this last year. More activity moving over to mobile. Search volume and CPCs are going down because mobile is more app-based instead of the browser, which is where Google lives at the front door. So in order to counterbalance that, they are kind of working with this paradigm of micro moments. I mentioned that earlier, right? So I think that this is a play towards capturing more micro moments throughout the day, in this case while watching a video, for something that is, again, more actionable than just a kind of vague and harder to measure branding play. And Google's based on, their DNA is in this type of lower funnel direct action based on intent, high intent. So they're trying to capture those moments of intent, I think, and this just very much aligns with Google's DNA. And I think it's pretty logical, but I agree with you. It could be somewhat obtrusive.
Well, first of all, I don't use an ad blocker. I decided a couple of years ago that since we work in this industry, I want to see what's happening, and it's kind of freaky because I've even converted a few ads just based on purchases. I signed up for Harry's razors. I did Combatant Gentleman for my suits, and a couple other things that I probably have seen. Just Amazon ads in my Facebook for blenders that I ended up buying on Amazon because I was searching for blenders 3 weeks prior to that. So, I mean, it all kind of comes together for me, at least. And I know that for the average consumer who's only passively paying attention to this whole thing, I don't think they're concerned about the obtrusiveness. And I think that, to Mike's point, and I think in general with advertising, that's what's happening is that we're moving to much lower friction between ad exposure and impression and conversion, right? And so Mike's point, the whole point of Google and the rest of the world, and Facebook specifically, is to move from impression to conversion as soon as possible. And just like Apple did last year, where they got rid of their actual store function, and now you can just do a buy now button from any product page. I think it's going to happen with video content. Video content's taking over the world, and companies like Facebook that have problems with proving ROI for advertising and video, to be able to have a convertible call to action in the actual stream of a video, and then even have the metrics around, when was that ad clicked in the video, what was it in the video that caused that action to take place, as well as the context of where the video was exposed, what type of user that was. I think is actually going to add much more contextual sort of insight to relevancy, to making sure that ads that are displayed are relevant to whatever that person's watching. And I think that's actually going to be a good thing for everybody, because one of the reasons why people are kind of anti-advertising, or they have been previously, is because it's just not relevant. People don't want to see something that's not related to what they're exactly interested in. But if they are, like if the ad is relevant, if it is
then they'll welcome it. Yeah.
Then they'll welcome it and they'll convert against it, right? And so I think in time, we're going to move towards a space where video ads are not going anywhere. And I think that this will become the next version of the appropriate call to action, right?
It's going to be interesting to see if these kind of TrueView CTA ads, the degree to which they're arrayed across desktop as opposed to mobile. And I'm not sure if that's part of the announcement, but the reason I mention that is that buying intent tends to be higher in mobile when people look for those.
Yeah, these are mobile targeted.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, nice. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last topic is one. It relates to an area that both Abid and I have covered directly, and Mike has covered as a theme, and that is local on demand, and the way that small business is going to become more integrated into the kinds of experience that customers or consumers have every day. And this is a story that came out. It's more of a reflection on what is happening with two companies. One, Frederick, which was is a local marketing automation platform, which was acquired. Why am I forgetting the name of the company? By Booker, our client. About 9 months ago, and they've started to talk about what they're doing. Booker is a marketing platform for small business. Frederick is a tool for integrating your schedules, your billing, your CRM, and other capabilities into your small business website and the services you offer, so that you can manage people, get them out into the market, service people to a person needing an installation or support, sending a doctor on a call. There are a variety of ways this can be used. But what this raises is this idea that small business now is positioning itself to be that deliverer of the last mile experience for a variety of brands and services. It requires some investment. And what I would like to talk about a little bit, and as briefly as possible, is how do you guys see something like Frederick, driven by Booker and the sales approach they have, which is to sell through resellers to small business? How do you see them positioning the need for something like Frederick going forward? How important will this be to an SMB's investment in their marketing in the future? That ability to have their schedules open and accessible so somebody can call them when they need them, to set a price, to negotiate over the phone or over the net through chatbots and so forth. All this stuff is going to converge in platforms like this. Is this the future of small business marketing?
A couple of things that are a little bit of a rewind. So in thinking about what Booker has done in the last 5, 6, 7 years, thinking about service-based local businesses, your salons, your spas, your fitness classes, anything that requires a schedule in order to book a service, they really got the short end of the stick when it came to being able to leverage technology for promoting and building out their business, right? I mean, you have, and you still have, but you have a bunch of tools that are related to simply just creating a booking, right? Like just here's an open calendar, let me book a service, and then that's all it really does. And then every other part of that overall service business function is being done manually or through some legacy installed licensed software. And it really made it so that the folks that are in the service industry within the local business world were really being left behind and taking advantage of everything from marketing automation solutions, managing things through CRMs, because it might not have made sense given the type of industry they're in. And so what Booker did, and what companies like Booker, what they've done is they've decided that in order to really be the best partner to the service businesses, that they really need to provide a soup to nuts experience that includes everything from obviously the booking part of the solution in terms of scheduling and booking, but then also the running and the managing and the attracting and retaining of the customers that come through that, right? And so that's part of the reason why Booker made the purchase in March of Frederick. The whole idea here is that there are one of the biggest challenges that service businesses have in the local space is that there's a need to be able to fill up open time slots in a calendar during the week, right? There's no real proactive method that works for being able to say, well, look, we've got 7, 8 open spots this week. We don't know how to fill them. Whether it's putting up a Facebook post and crossing your fingers that hopefully somebody will come and book an appointment. And so what the Frederick Booker sort of consolidation, or what the tool integration has sort of done here, is allowed for Frederick's. They've got a proprietary technology. I don't want to call it machine learning or AI, but there's a proprietary.
It's algorithmic.
It's algorithmic. That's right. Yeah, they've got an algorithmic solution for being able to take the data that Booker already has about its current customer base, customers that come in more than once, customers that are known to respond to email blasts, customers that are likely to come in again either way. Right. And what they do is they optimize messaging, whether it's email, whether it's text-based, in real time based off of a current calendar, and then send out highly specialized messaging to a highly targeted list of customers that are likely to convert, and let them know, hey, by the way, we've got this open spot coming up tomorrow at 3. Your next appointment's coming up in a week anyways. Why don't you take this one? By the way, we'll give you 25% off your next service. And what that's assumed to do is really open up not only efficiency for not having to have a person go through and do this, manually calling people, but it's also kind of opened the door to this idea that service businesses can take advantage of algorithmic-based solutions. They can take advantage of local on-demand solutions, and really the whole buildup here is around this concept of service commerce, or S-commerce. And what this S-commerce concept is being compared to is e-commerce. Back in the day, when the internet first kind of came aboard and the first product transactions were taking place, the whole idea was, I'm going to buy something online and have it physically be sent to me to my physical location. There was never really a facility for being able to buy a service online, then take care of that service offline. And what service commerce and what the Frederick Booker solution is trying to accomplish is that exact thing, being able to complete the entire service purchase online, soup to nuts, with the marketing component on top of it, with the CRM and hiring and human resources components on top of it for the service business, and then have it all be transacted offline in the location itself.
So one of the things that I've heard them articulate is the idea that, for instance, in the way that we would think of an SEM program now, I've got an empty block on Friday afternoon. I want to fill it. What's it worth to me to fill it? It's a very easy thing to set a budget to fill that time and to then see whether it works. That's only one component, though. You're going to want to have your content and brand marketing for the small business, as well as whatever brands it represents, telling that story all the time, so that when service is appropriate, the service is something that people will opt into. You then create the opportunity to say, would you like the service for 25% off? And I think that's the future of a new type of promotional offering.
Yep.
And it's also the end point of what we're doing with SEO and ultimately all content marketing targeting in the future. It will be driving to creating those moments of identified need, where you've gotten some feedback from somebody that says, I really do care about this. I've clicked on it. I've expressed this.
I'll make one quick comment in the interest of time to extract one of the themes that I'm hearing from you guys, which is interesting, which is that, and this brings in a data point we've all heard, that despite all the attention paid to e-commerce over the last decade, it only accounts for about 7% of U.S. consumer spending.
Yeah, about 10 now.
Yeah. Yep. So essentially, the vast majority happens offline. But, all of the technology, the ad tech, the stuff we're talking about here has traditionally existed online. So it's taking that e-commerce-like digital tracking functionality and bringing it into that much larger pie of the offline. And we're certainly bullish on companies that are taking that path and that whole kind of supply chain, whether it be the vendors or the companies doing it. So I think this is a good example, the Booker and Frederick piece here, of that theme, that it's taking that online capability and bringing it offline, which is of course a lot more challenging because you're talking about atoms instead of bits.
Yep. Well, and we will continue to wrestle that until we transcend and become the machine intelligence
until we turn
be.
Into bits.
I think this is a great place to stop for this week. Guys, thank you very much for the conversation today. Folks, we will be back next Thursday at 10 a.m. And look for a guest next week. We'll be doing an interview to add to our amazing news conversation. So again, thank you for tuning in to BIA Kelsey Live. This is Mitch Ratcliffe. You've been talking with Abid Chaudhry and Mike Boland. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.